said, my name is James Grice. I'm the innovation lead at Eversheds Sutherland, and I look after our service design and process improvement team. Part of that team, its focus is around creativity and innovation, and a big chunk of that is around idea management, which we lean heavily on Idea Drop for. And what I wanted to do in today's session, and I'll try and keep the time short so we can get over to the exciting stuff that Chaucer have got lined up for us as quickly as we can. I thought it would be useful just to give you a bit of background about our journey with Idea Drop and how where we've gotten to today, but then to focus a little bit more on how we structured Idea Drop, the roles that we have in the business to manage it, the process that we go through, when we're sort of passing ideas through the organisation, and then to be quite honest about some of the challenges we've faced and how we've worked with Idea Drop and actually with Chaucer to try and tackle some of those. So I thought that would be hopefully interesting, and I think, if you've got any questions at any point, please, as Johnny mentioned, throw them in the chat or feel free to reach out to me after the session. So I'll start with a very brief background on how we got to where we are today. So we launched Idea Drop within our organisation in June 2018 at our Global Partner Conference. We then rolled out the application firm-wide to our international offices and to our US offices in October of the same year. And this whole project was sponsored by our co-CEOs, Lee Ranson and Mark Wasserman. In terms of where we're at today, we have 2,677 active users as of yesterday. That may have gone up. We have 1,176 ideas dropped, and 32% of those have come against challenges that we've set the organisation. And our challenges typically are focused around our strategic plans as a firm. We've implemented 70 ideas so far, with 400 still going through the review process, and I'll talk about why that's a bit of a problem for us in a moment. But I thought I'd highlight some of one of the big ticket ideas and just talk about one of our biggest challenges. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a snippet from the Lawyer website and an article that they wrote about our Techtember training month, which we ran last September. Techtember for us was about training our lawyers in both our UK and international offices on the use of legal technology and how they can have open conversations with their clients about legal tech and trying to give them confidence to do that. That particular idea or that event was born out of Idea Drop, and it's probably the biggest idea that we've had come from the platform to date. It was a global event that we ran, incredibly well received, and the idea actually came from our business. So our business users put that forward. We developed it with them, and then we ran that across, like I said, a number of offices. I think it was 22 offices in total across the globe. On the right-hand side, you can see a summary of the best challenge that we've posted to date. So this one came from our CEO and was actually posted to our international business. So we separate our organisation where you're either in the US or you're international. So that's how we divide ourselves up. This idea actually garnered nearer 150 ideas, but unfortunately a number of our Idea Drop users failed to link their idea to the challenge. But even so, you can see the response rate there. It was much more than we'd anticipated and created an awful lot of work for our curating team who looked after that particular challenge. So that's sort of a very brief whistle-stop tour of where we are today, or how we arrived at today. But what I thought would be useful is to tell you how we've structured the platform and how we've set ourselves up to manage Idea Drop and manage our innovation approach. So first of all, I thought I'd talk to you briefly about the roles we have within Idea Drop and within our innovation management setup. So first of all, top of the list there, innovation leads. These are senior individuals from our practice groups or our international operations departments who have been put in charge of our innovation effort. I won't read every one of those lines out. I believe the slides will be circulated after the event if you'd like to read this in more detail. But ultimately, they're there to engage their practice group or their department with innovation and the work that we're doing, as well as driving new challenges from their practice group leads or their team leads. Supporting the innovation leads are our curators. Their job is to more actively monitor Idea Drop and the ideas that are coming through, to get involved in those ideas, use the social elements, comment, like, rate, etc., and to engage more people around the business. So using things like the app mention functionality to alert people in the business to interesting ideas. And then, of course, they work with their innovation lead to progress those ideas through our idea journey. But both of them are responsible, both those roles are responsible for working with other people performing those same tasks across the business. So critically, making sure that we are engaging as a firm rather than doing innovation in pockets, and making sure that those bigger ideas are surfaced to all relevant areas of our organisation. To support those roles, we then developed a fairly simple pipeline, and we used the Idea Drops pipeline feature to manage this. So all of our ideas start their life in live, and our curators own that process. And typically we advise them to perform a weekly review. We like to hold ideas in the platform for roughly 4 weeks, just to let them breathe and to see what kind of social following they gather, what kind of ideas are born out of the original idea, and how that idea grows. And then eventually those curators will move that idea into a review state in which their leads become involved. And again, typically we do those monthly, but each team does them slightly differently. They're deciding in that meeting whether or not to take that idea any further. Does it need to be a further investigation? Do we take it forward from a feasibility point of view, or can we get that straight onto that and deliver it? And of course, the one missing list on here, or status, is the archive status, where all the bad ideas go to die. And ultimately they're aiming for implementation. That's what we want, and that's what we work towards, but we've had some challenges along the way with that. Finally, I want to just touch on our challenge process, so how we support our teams in developing the right kind of challenges for our organisation. So we start off with our problem identification workshops. We offer that to our business teams if they want it, and we use design thinking techniques to draw out opportunities from the problems that our business areas believe they're facing. We then use some best practice guidelines to write those challenges, and then we've been leaning on Idea Drop a little there to review those challenges and give us feedback to make sure they're as good as they can be. And then we move to communications and thinking about how we communicate that challenge. What we don't do is just drop it on the platform and hope that people see it. We of course we post it on the platform, but we also then make sure to advertise and promote that challenge wherever it's appropriate to the audience that's going to see it. So if it's a firm-wide challenge, then it goes all over our intranet. If it's practice group specific challenge, it goes in the practice group newsletter or something like that. Then of course we make the challenge live, and then there's a couple of steps that we follow after that. We first of all make sure that some sort of post-challenge review takes place before finally supporting those areas with the implementation of their ideas. And we might do that through project management skills we've got within our team. We might help them write a business case or garner stakeholder support and engagement. Which all sounds great, and hopefully I've painted a picture of perfection there, and it sounds like we've got this cracked. But the reality is a little different. No process like this is perfect, and building an innovation culture takes time, and it's not without its bumps. So I thought I'd share a couple of challenges that we came across, and how we arrived at them. So in January this year, so a year after we launched, I actually spent some time locked in a room with Julian from Chaucer, who's on the call, and Callan from Idea Drop. I think it was probably more challenging for them than it was for me. But in that 4 hours, we went through our entire implementation of Idea Drop and our broader innovation culture. We looked at what was working well, and where we were having our problems, and where we were getting, I say negative feedback sounds really, really negative, doesn't it? But where we were getting that feedback from our business that things could be improved. And what we came up with were a number of areas of focus, but I've picked out the 2 bigger ones for us to share with you today. The first of them was a bit of a bottleneck, really. So, and our 400 ideas in live probably tells you that we haven't quite cracked this problem yet, but we're working towards it. We found a lot of ideas were getting stuck at that under review stage, or getting from live into that review stage. And the real reason for that was really around resource and investment. So a lot of our teams were finding ideas that they thought were good, they wanted to take forward, but they had no real idea how they were going to achieve that. They hadn't got enough budget that year, or resources already allocated to other projects they'd committed to the business that they would deliver. And that was a problem for us. The other aspect was really around detail and sort of ownership and volume of ideas. I'll touch on volume again shortly, but we certainly found early on with the platform that there was a bit of a drop and run mentality with some of our users. They would come to the platform to suggest their ideas or their thoughts around improvements, but they wouldn't necessarily be interested in following that through to completion, and would expect somebody else to do it. So that was another challenge there that we looked to tackle. To deal with the resource and financial side, we made a small tweak to our process. So I talked you through these steps just a second ago, and this is the fully fleshed out version of that document. On the left hand side, you'll notice we've now got an innovation board. We didn't have that in phase 1 of Idea Drop, and that was an absence that was sorely missed, so we fixed that now. And down the right hand side of the document, we then provided the curators with a series of questions to try and help them to make quick decisions on what to do with an idea, to try and unlock that backlog of ideas. So something as simple as, at the live stage, before I can progress it to under review, do I have enough information to review that idea? If I don't, then push back, ask for more. And if you don't get it, we empower them to archive those ideas or move them out of the queue. And there's a number of questions there that you can see, very simple questions, you know, things that you might think are a no-brainer, but we need to provide that support. The innovation board, I'll take you into a bit more detail, really kicks in around that feasibility stage. And behind there, we have a fairly simple process flow, but it helped those curators, again, to manage those ideas through the journey. So first of all, if the idea has reached feasibility, we ask ourselves the simple question, is it a viable idea? Does it make sense to do it? Can we do it? Is it even doable? If the answer is no, then of course that idea unfortunately has to go to the archive. If the answer is yes, then we then ask the teams, does it benefit or affect multiple areas of our business? If the answer is yes, then I'll talk about how the innovation board works, but that's where it's going. If the answer is no, then the second question is, do we have the required budget and or resource to deliver it? Again, if the answer to that is yes, then we encourage our users to crack on and implement that idea. But if it's not, if we don't have that resource or budget, then we take a concept slide or our idea forward, essentially, to our innovation board for a review. The innovation board has a few powers that we've enabled them with. So the first one is the purse strings. They can dole out money where it's needed. We've got, oh, thanks, Nick. We've got ideas required, the idea requiring a POC. So if it requires an idea, then, if it requires investment and a POC to prove the value of that large scale idea, then we can unlock that for them. The innovation board has the power to fund that. And if that idea then is successful, that POC is successful, then the idea can be added to our demand management pipeline and considered for investment in the next financial year. If the idea is a small idea, again, they have the power there to assign money and or resource to deliver that idea. And it just has helped to unlock a number of those blockages in our pipeline. The other problem, which I imagine we're not alone on, is the quality versus quantity piece. And there were two sides to that. The first one was around the quality of an idea. So our senior management at least felt that the quality of ideas coming through the platform in the early stages was not really the level that they were looking for. They were looking for more strategic alignment. And a lot of our ideas that were coming through were more quality of life changes, small incremental changes, which we acknowledge need to happen. They have a big part to play in building that innovation culture. But I think the expectations of our leadership team were slightly mismatched with the reality of what was happening on the system. So we thought of a couple of ideas to help with this. The first one was to provide an incentive. So incentivizing a certain stage in that process being reached, and we attributed that to feasibility. We felt that would encourage more thorough filtering by our curators and leads in terms of ideas that made it through that far, forcing them to be a little bit more critical in the way they manage those ideas. But it also encouraged our business users to drop ideas with a greater level of detail. And more thought being added to those ideas to give it a better chance of getting through. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we introduced this idea of the concept slide and that presentation to the innovation board that gave the curators and ideas and the ideators, an idea what they needed to do when collaborating on an idea. And slightly craftily, also discourage people from simply dropping ideas and running away, because if they knew that ownership and presentations may be involved and further input into the project to deliver their idea was required, they may be less inclined to just drop and run with those ideas, which we know would reduce the volume of ideas, but hopefully drive up the quality of those people truly committed to delivering that change. And then the last one was around our curators struggling with the volume. And you know, that's still a problem for us today. We haven't quite cracked that yet. A lot of it is to do with time. You know, we're very busy at the moment as a business, as I'm sure many of you are, dealing with the pandemic and all the changes that that's bringing about. But providing our curators with objectives around innovation is certainly helping, because they're able to give more time over to the work that we need them to do. We've also encouraged the teams where volumes are highest to recruit more people into those teams as curators and grow their numbers. We had one team who were regularly hammered with ideas, who had one curator trying to do everything. So we talked to them and said, look, you know, you need more people, bring somebody in. And they've done that, and it certainly eased the load on them. We've provided additional training and mentoring to our curators. And then the last one there around innovation hours, a bit more challenging. I don't know how many of you work in a law firm, but you know, creating those innovation hours, we are working on. It's a conversation in progress, but to try and help those curators based in our practice groups we need to give them some way to record their time and benefit from the time they're spending on innovation, rather than thinking about the billable hour. So that's just a quick fly through some of the challenges that we faced, how we're trying to address them. There's a whole load more that we've been doing, and we've had some great success with some of the changes that we've implemented as well. It is a journey. It's a long road for us. We're committed to building this innovation culture. I think we're on the right path now, but I think it's one of those things that you have to be willing to iterate on and be open-minded to that change. That's what we're asking our users to do when it comes to sharing their ideas with us. So I think we have to be open-minded to that as well when developing our own process for managing innovation.